maybe the kind of shame that kids feel is different than the kind of shame that adults feel.
So this is interesting. And this is the other reason, one of the other reasons why adults are better at learning than kids. So this is work that a bunch of different neuroscientists did, but Gene Cohn, who's the sort of the godfather of geriatric psychiatry and a great hero in the peak performance aging field, sort of crystallized together with a couple of big studies. So what Gene discovered is that first, over time, the brain changes, right? And really positive changes start to happen in our late 40s in a bunch of different ways. There's a bunch of genes that only turn with experience and they get ratcheted up. The two hemispheres of the brain, which, as you know, they don't really work together. They sort of work in opposition for most of our life. They start to work together really well in our 50s. So, and also in our 50s, that hemispheric cooperation accelerates and increases in our 50s and 60s, peaks in our 80s. And finally, the brain in our 50s starts to recruit underutilized regions. You don't know a musical instrument, you're not using this space over here, so let's use it for redundancy and so we can back up memories and do other stuff like that. That starts to happen in our 50s. As a result of these changes, we unlock a whole, 3 new levels of intelligence, new kinds of problem solving, analogical thinking, analytical reasoning comes online. We get access to whole new levels of creativity, divergent thinking, like outside the box, far-flung pattern recognition really turns up because the two sides of the brains are talking to one another in new ways. We can also get access to whole new levels of empathy and wisdom. Okay, now I'm not answering the question you asked. Let's go back to the question you asked, which was about shame.
The reason I asked this, Stephen, is because you just mentioned a lot of, we get these new intelligences, and you describe the three basic new intelligences in the book: the relativistic, non-dualistic, and then I forget the name of the third.
Systems thinking.
The issue is most people don't experience this increase in, new kinds of cognitive ability. And I think it's because we are saddled with, let's say, lack of playfulness that we had when we were kids, or maybe more shame related to success or failure, whether it's a small activity or a life activity. And maybe so that's why I wonder if shame is a critical.
Let me answer your question now. Here's the second half of that. You're partially right. You may not, you may be completely right. I just haven't seen any research into it, but this is what we know. And this is work done that comes out of adult development, the Harvard studies of adult development, the Stanford studies, all this stuff. They realize that these cognitive superpowers have moderators, if-then conditions, and there's 4 things that you have to do to unlock them. So by age 30, you got to solve the crisis of identity. You got to know who you are. By 40, you have to have figured out sort of match fit or match quality, which means there's a tight match between who you are and what you're doing with the bulk of your time, right? Fits your values, your strengths, that sort of thing. That's why identity matters. You can't find match fit if you don't know who you are. And then by 50, and this is the answer to your question, get access to the cognitive superpowers, especially the empathy and wisdom. If you don't have forgiveness of others and forgiveness of self, it seems to block that development. And then finally, in your 50s, hold on, there's one more. There's actually 3 more that matter, but we'll get to the one more. To really unlock those superpowers, you need to be regularly engaged in challenging and creative activities. That creativity and actively being creative in any way is what starts to unlock those superpowers. So if you're seeing people who aren't getting it there, it's not because they can't. It's because they haven't progressed through these gateways of adult development that you need in order to unlock these superpowers.